Hello again, Native Tongues listeners. Thanks for tuning in. We're back with a very fun episode this week. But first, if you're listening, hit that little follow button at the top. If you really want to be a friend, rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, and go check out our Instagram page at Native Tongues Pod. Now, our guest this week is a screenwriter that's living out his wildest dreams. After heading to LA and having some early success, and a few starts and stops along the way, he finally broke into the Hollywood system and started selling scripts. He co-wrote the movie Oculus with Mike Flanagan, along with Before I Wake. He wrote the screen adaptation for Gerald's Game for Netflix, and he worked on some of my favorite shows, The Haunting of Hill House and Midnight Mass. He has a number of high-profile projects coming up that we talk about throughout the episode, so stick around to the end, because this is full of behind-the-scenes Hollywood stories that were a real blast to hear. Let's welcome to the pod, Jeff Howard.
That sounds hard.
Yeah, I've got a 9 and 11.
Oh, so it's like, all right. Well, so I get to look forward to great. So it doesn't get easier, right? They just eventually move away.
It just gets.
It changes. I was saying to a friend the other day, I'm like, the best way you can describe parenting is it's relentless. Like, especially the younger they are. Like, it's just relentless. They never stop. They never stop needing. They never stop going. It's like you can't. There's no. Let me take a break here and just check out. No, sorry.
Yeah.
We have a math kid and a silly kid, but like literally for the last few months, all they care about is Michael Jackson. And so it's like,
oh my God, that's great.
This has been like our everyday reality now.
Oh my God.
So yeah.
That could be very problematic if it ever comes up.
Ironically, Michael Jackson would have been all about them.
Really?
That was inappropriate.
Right. This is the whole, I haven't heard these songs this much since I was like 12. You know what I mean?
That's awesome. How did that come about? What was the introduction to the school thing? Like they came home from school and they're like,
no, they're just music. They love music, like all kinds of stuff. And they were really lost in like early 80s Britpop and like new wave for a long time. Like just
try so hard with that. I play that for my kids all the time.
I have so many videos of our 3-year-old like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 senses working overtime. It's amazing. He does the moves and everything, and it's like he memorizes all the stuff. But then we went to the Grammy Museum one day, and they had the Thriller video playing, and they had a little Michael exhibit, and it was like they were just like, it was like they found their purpose in life. You know?
That's fantastic.
Nice.
It's been fun. It's been fun. They got really good moves. It's just weird. You go and you walk around the mall and like you have two kids, like they have their Billie Jean jackets. They have the black sequin one with the armband thing. They got
my God.
So they just pick a costume every day. And now we go out and about and it's like, they get a lot of feedback.
Yeah, right. I'm sure.
I would say that's great though. It's like but you're obviously investing in that too, which is a great thing to invest in. You know, you can do that or like, Pokemon cards or something ridiculous like that. Or much rather buy my kids the Michael Jackson's, sparkly glove.
Yes. Their stuff is all put away for once, but like they've got like, the electric guitar, the acoustic guitar, the keyboard, the setup, the recorder, it's like they're making, and now my son who's 6 just goes on God, what's it called? Band something that's on like everybody's phone, and he just makes songs.
Like GarageBand?
Yeah, GarageBand. Yeah. And he just makes these songs now. And it's like, I listen to these things and it's like, his first song was called Hate You. And I was like, oh no. And I was like, hate you. How could you? I hate you.
Would have killed in the early 90s.
Yeah. I mean, totally Michael derivative, but like a weird mix of Seattle and Michael Jackson. Like, yeah.
It's coming. It's coming. We're about, you've probably got 10 years and then that's going to be all anybody's listening to.
And last thing, sorry to belabor, but it's like all they really want. I don't know if you remember the lean from Smooth Criminal, like when he leans.
Of course.
Oh, hell yeah.
So like every day,
with the hats and the
yes. So whenever we get an Amazon package, they'll both like whoever's around will be like, "Are those my lean shoes? Are those my
lean shoes so they can lean?"
There are shoes coming soon that are going to be lean shoes that they're going to be able to lean with. I just plugged these. This is a new set that I just opened the package from
No, that's fine. Yeah,
no, good.
that's good.
Cool. Okay, cool.
It's good. Maybe it'll be more consistent as you.
Yeah.
Be more consistent. It's like, look, if I wanted to be told to be more consistent, I'd have this conversation with my wife. Okay. It's not a good way to start the day. You've hit my inner monologue. You know what I mean?
Right.
Be present.
Right.
Stop being lost in your bullshit and stay present in your children's lives. You know, like all that stuff. So
I've never heard that before at all.
oh yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Like, are they being entertaining? Are they doing Michael Jackson songs? Are we
But and it's just no like total confidence. Like he'll just walk in like he wore his jacket today. It's like
That's so great.
Love it.
And that chicken hormone stuff is so true because all he talks about is girls too. It's like, oh man, you gotta lay off this like hormone chicken that you've been having.
Farm raised salmon from now on.
Exactly. Right. We're just like I've been anyway. Yeah, we'll figure it out. So at least they're boys.
On that weird note, do I tell you I had sardines yesterday for the first time since I was like, I think probably like 13, because now I'm
Really?
pushing 50, so I figure I'm old enough to have sardines.
I like sardines.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Well, you're like, do you do gefilte fish because you're in the tribe? Is that a thing?
I do. I also
You do. Gefilte
Yeah.
fish looks like the grossest thing I've ever seen.
It does.
My friends who eat it love it. It's great.
It's distressing.
I'd read this thing that was like you should have fish like 2 servings a week, and so we're trying to like get better with that. And they're like, canned fish is actually a very good way to go about it. It's like tuna fish, but watch out this. And then so I was like, and sardines are supposed to be really good, like a mega food. So I ran yesterday and then went and I was like, all right, I'm just stomach. And I was like, I was like, okay, no, these are not bad. I went to use hand sanitizer afterwards, and I got a cut from the can on my thing. I was like, ouch, dude, that's like
been too long since you've
yes. Yeah. I was like, I didn't know. So
now I'm just used to the pull tab ones, you know what I mean?
no, that it was like pull tab can. I'm like, I feel like a little kitten. Like I feel like one of the fancy kittens, like the cats that are like too hoity-toity to eat out of anything else. That you put it on a plate for them, that's what I felt like.
Yeah.
So next time I'll remember that. I have no idea how we got on this, but
Neither do I.
But I mean, I know this is what your people want to know.
This is as good as it gets.
All the sardine, yes. Look, it's better than most.
Oh,
so, which one of you guys worked with Buettler? Is that the
yes,
song?
I did.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and so and I was going to say I'm jealous. You spent lots of time with my some of my favorite people in the world. How did you guys meet?
When I graduated college, 3 other guys and I raised money to shoot like an indie feature, like in the summer after college. Yeah. And Buettler was hired to be the I think one of not the DP, but I don't know, one of the camera operators basically. Okay. And he was just like this dude who just came in and was like, listen, these movies always fall apart. Like if you don't give me all the money for the month ahead of time, I'm gonna walk. And it's like, wow, all right, so that's fine. It's great to meet you, but go have a good time. And then like an hour later, he finally revealed, he's like, okay, I have a massive ticket that I need to go pay off in court, like the first day of the thing. And if I could just get the money to pay off the ticket, that would really like help me out. It's like, okay, well, this should have been the first approach. Right. But yeah, I love you. He really tried to intimidate and bluster like as much as he could. Oh my gosh. But it wouldn't work. He would just revert back to normal. But it's like his default position was always like loud blustery.
What was the short film?
It was called Permanent Damage. It was we shot it. I'd like to tell you, it was 1990, the summer of 1991. So it was like we shot on 16, and I think the whole budget was like I think it was like $95,000 or something. And
oh my god,
we did.
That's pretty good for like a just starting out kind of thing.
Yeah, I thought you were gonna say like under 10,000.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was a feature, and we're really determined to pay everybody decently and literally block out a month to shoot it and all that stuff. And when it was done, we sold it to Blockbuster, which was like and we all like I think in the end, I think we lost like $15,000 or something. Like we just came like whatever those sales were, they came up to be just under what the budget was. So like everybody almost got their money back. Almost.
But it's like you invested that money and now you have something to show for it.
Oh, you haven't seen it. Yeah, it was terrible. it was exactly as bad as you would think it was. You know what I mean? And we had a director who was just lazy, and it was like, we sometimes it would be like 6 hours in and like, okay, we got everything we need today. It was like, dude, like, what if we work 12 hours? Like, there's this shit called coverage, and you should give it a try, you know? It was shameful. I think Bueller and I both walked away from that. We started writing together like toward the end of that shoot, and it was just like, I think we just looked around at everybody else and we're like, these people are screwed.
Really?
Like, they're, you need that cosmic commitment to just really throw yourself into it.
That's really hard to find.
100%. And I think that's why we sort of, it was like the Clash or something. Like, we just banded together, like, we will just be a gang, and we will, even if we're not going to sit. Like, I mean, we really did most stuff together, but even if it was stuff that was apart, it was like, well, we're just going to keep it under this banner and just like present this thing. And I just think it was, you were braver in numbers to come out to LA all those first times and do all those first things. It was like, there was like a bravery in having a gang and being together. So
yeah, sure. So what was that leap? You went to school for what, writing?
History and mass communications was my major, like, dual thing. And I really preferred history, I loved movies, and I didn't think there was a chance in hell that it could ever be something real. I thought, you try, then you fail, then you become a history teacher, like, is the, is the zone.
Right.
But then I met the Maryland Film Commissioner came to that set of that movie we made after college and started hanging out for a couple of nights. And it was this guy named Jay Schlossberg Cohen at the time, which is also a great sobriety test to say Jay Schlossberg Cohen, Schlossberg. Yeah. So it's like, never say that in mixed company, but like, we're with the cops around, they're like, Schlossberg, like, get him. But yeah, he would just have us in. Like, I would go in and like, he would say, if you want to come to lunch, or if you ever want me to read something, I'll check it out. So gave him the script. And he would, he read it and he had notes. And I just remember sitting across from his desk, like, he had 2 giant Rolodexes. And I was like, all right, there's the names of people from Hollywood, like, working, in the movie business.
How many of these can I fit in my pocket and run out the door?
Like, how many times do I have to show up and meet this guy before he'll open up the Rolodex and like, like, and make some introductions? And I think it turned out to be about like 18 or 20 times, it was like, I just went and showed up enough. And finally he was like, yeah, like, I met this guy at this place and this guy at this place. And that was the very first trip. He called and set up people, and Bueller and I went out and met them. So
did he help? How did you get into the, so I'm going to step back real quick so how did you raise the money for the 95K? Like, how did that process happen? Just starting out for people that are in that.
I hated it. I went to like every small bit. I tried to cap it at like $1,000 per person so that it wasn't like such a giant bite. But in 1991, $1,000 is still like a ton of money.
Yeah, sure.
We had a couple of 10,000 people. My dad was a CPA, so like, he had a guy who owned a restaurant that was pretty big, and he just, my dad had really helped him a lot, so he invested 10, and my dad invested 10, and it was like, so there were like a couple of anchor ones that just sort of like helped it get up and running. But then after that, I just
hustling.
Anybody. We had a crew that we wanted to do, and it was just like, look, anybody you think, like, and I was nominated to be the one to go talk to most of the people, because we had a businessy guy, but he was just so like, he was just so vanilla and boring. Really just like, it wasn't, it wasn't like, it was always better off with a calculator than with the humans. And and I think the only reason it worked is my entire technique was I just tried to talk people out of it. Like, everywhere I went, I was like, listen, I like, here's these facts and figures. Here's some movies that were made for like 60 and 80 and $100,000 that have made a couple million. But there's 2,700 failures for every one of these. And like,
right. Well, you set them up for it. That's good.
I just didn't want to get sued later by somebody who was like, "Hey, I got swindled by somebody who made a bunch." So I just went the other way. I like so under-promised, as a defense mechanism.
Yeah. Well, maybe they like that you didn't have delusions of grandeur,
Yes. Same in my marriage proposal too, by the way. It's just like, let me underplay this as severely as possible.
Set the bar as low as possible. You can only go up.
Right. I'd be like, I told you right up front, this is how it was going to be.
Actually, that is pretty close. Yeah, it's like, here's everything wrong with me. I want you to know now, so you can make an informed decision.
How did you get to the Blockbuster deal? So was that somebody having connections, or was it film commission thing? Or
we cut a trailer. And we had like 100 VHSs made of the trailer and just sent them to every production company or tiny distributor that you could find. Like, I remember the one that I was the most excited about was like on the like finding the address on the cover of the Drugstore Cowboy VHS. You know what I mean? And it was like,
Oh my gosh.
hey, like this company, Allied Entertainment or whatever it was at the time, they're like, their address is on here. Like this is gonna be the easiest one
What
ever to
fools
find.
they are.
Yes. Well, what we discovered really quickly when Butler and I started coming to LA was that there was this book called the Hollywood Creative Directory. And I don't think they do it anymore, but at the time, it was every production company, who they had a deal with, everybody who worked there, their extension. Sometimes they would have their email, or like one person would have an email and then you could intuit everybody else's. And it was like, I think that book was like $60, which was like 5 days of food to us at the time. You know what I mean? But it was like, but we were like, okay, well, we need this book more than the food.
We're gonna be contacting people so frequently we won't have time to eat. So don't worry about it. It'll be great.
We rented a place in like near, like between Venice and Santa Monica. That was like the cheapest little sublet thing that you could get for 6 weeks. And we got the Hollywood Creative Directory and we rented a fax machine. I think it cost $27 a week or something, you know? And every morning we would read Variety, and we would go to this little place. We would read Hollywood Reporter and Variety. He would read them like he was reading it to me, and I would write down the names of the people who had made deals and everything so that we didn't have to buy them and like commit to fully buying them. So we could just go back to them with our list of everything. Yes. So I think the only fight Butler and I ever had one day was we were walking down the place and I was just starving. And I turned, it was like, then we passed some place that was like Chinese food, $4.95, you know? And I was like, dude, let's just go get lunch. Let's just do it. And he's like, look, man, you got to take over doing the money because I don't want to have to tell you that you can't have $5 for Chinese food. Yeah. Anyway.
Oh man.
Yeah, he was the funniest guy in the history of the world, and really fun to write with.
How was that process? Did you guys tend to work at like same ideas, same things, or like you did more dialogue-y stuff, he did more any of that stuff, or is it just?
We just talked and talked until stuff appeared, and then we would start to put it down on paper, and somebody would type and somebody would paste. And I think I always typed because he was really terrible typist, like really bad, and one of the worst spellers and one of the worst like malaprop guys, like everything, you know, just like nothing about him screamed writer except being so funny and so good at telling stories. But like everything, and sometimes I would look at him like, dude, it's your native language. Like, how could you be so far off? It's like you don't speak any other. Like, this is the one language you've had your whole life.
Did you have like a formatting program, or were you just working in like a Word document?
At first it was all like whatever, like Word Perfect, I think it was, like way back in the day. And then sometime in like whenever Final Draft, I don't know when Final Draft started, but I think we acquired it somewhere in like 96, 97, maybe, like somewhere in that zone. And just, I've just used it ever since. So yeah, it just got really used to it. It made life so easy. It felt like such a like a luxury treat to be able to get it. I'm sure it was one of those things where like I asked my parents for it for Christmas or something. You know what I mean? Like one of those deals. So
you were in LA. Did anything come of those 6 weeks, or did you come back empty-handed?
Completely. Like I mean, absolutely. Though, I mean, one crazy thing happened in that like we gave a script to somebody who then gave it to somebody else, who gave it to somebody else. And we ultimately ended up as part of like a lawsuit over that script.
Oh, no.
So yes, the first time our names ever appeared in Variety was for a lawsuit. And I don't want to say, like, I'm sure you could intuit the giant franchise that it was, since in 1996 or whatever that it was, there really weren't that many giant franchises that had continued along internationally from the UK for several decades. And we gave this, we just, in the course of meeting people in those days, you gave hard copies of scripts, and we met somebody through like a connection from his college who then took a hard copy of the script. And then we went back to our little hovel back in like Santa Monica. And the next morning at like 8:59 a.m., there's like a knock on the door, like, it was like, and it was a courier like returning it. And we were like, wow, like that's like,
how about
that
nobody
had ever given one back before, but to like courier it over and like hand it over. And then like months and months later, we discovered in the, in discovery of the ultimate case, it was like the writer was married to that person that we met that day. And that night he wrote to the people and said, hey, I guess he was about to be fired from the project or something, was my understanding at the time. And then he wrote them this email that night that was like, hey, I've got this singular new idea that I think will really solve everything,
No
and so, it was so weird to see that stuff. But, who knows? I mean,
I guess you
all these years later,
right?
who knows?
Maybe, I don't know.
Ultimately, it financed about 2 years of our lives, at the end of which we sold our first script. You know what I mean? So it was like, it wasn't like a bad experience. It was more like a, wow, this is so weird that this is happening to us experience than it was like, oh no, we've been, violated.
Validating in a little bit of a way though too for the product, where you're
I
like, oh my
yes.
gosh, our shit was good enough to steal. That's
well,
amazing.
if you knew the movie, you would
Okay.
you would reevaluate that. You can Google it. I mean, if you Google Chris Butler, Jeff Howard lawsuit or something, I'm sure it comes up. I just know, we went to a deposition one morning and the writer of record walked by, and I just remember looking at him, just thinking like, he doesn't look very good. Like, it's like, I don't think.
Why'd they even hire that guy? That guy doesn't look like a writer.
And
Jesus.
he had written something before that was just totally off topic, but like that everybody knows.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it was just very strange. That was a weird experience.
Okay. You came back, you were working for 2 years on what?
Everything but a second draft. Like every new idea that came down the pike, and we would bust out a draft and then go, well, this is as great as it's ever going to be. It's perfect. We've achieved it. Let's now move on to the next one. Like, it never occurred to us ever. It never occurred to us ever until we sold one that it was like, well, now you gotta rewrite it, or you gotta fix it, or you gotta keep thinking about it, or revisit it in any way, shape, or form.
Really?
Was, yeah. So I'm not even sure either of us ever even read them really in the end, but it was just like, just crank these things out.
But you sold one without writing a second draft of it.
Yeah. We well, that was a weird case. So, the Maryland Film Commissioner got us started meeting people.
Uh-huh.
The other thing that happened was AOL happened at the same time.
Uh-huh.
And I just developed a weird facility for guessing email addresses of people, because it was all like, I mean, it's years later, so I feel comfortable saying this. One of the scripts I sold in the After Butler Zone was this thing to Ron Howard. And there was this day where the executives called and they were like, all right, look, we want you to be able to email him and everything. So, we're going to give you his private email address, but like, you must keep this under wraps. Like, do not, don't let this out anywhere in the world. And this thing's like, ronhoward@aol.com. It feels like anybody could have like perhaps got there. And that's what we realized early on, like Gail Ann Hurd and our first manager and like all these people were just sort of guessing the names, and then you just email and AOL and everything was so fresh at those times. I think they were just like they just treated it like normal. It was like,
people
great,
actually read stuff. They're like, oh, this person reached out to me. That's nice.
How
nice of them to contact me via email.
They did. Our second project was with Gail Ann Hurd, which totally came from all that stuff. So it was like,
wow.
But that first script, I just have to tell you, because it ruined our lives in so many ways, because it set up expectations of how the industry works that were completely wrong.
Oh no.
We were out there in LA for a week doing meetings. By that time, AOL had given us a manager who now is just a genuine issue out there in the world. She made a very famous documentary a couple of years ago for The Other Side, let's say. Okay. And and it was a big one, and it was like, oh goodness, like that's a name I haven't heard in 15 years, and this is the context in which I'm hearing it. But she set us up with
that way.
yeah. But she was effective then, and she set us up with a bunch of meetings, and we went to see like 1 or 2 or 3 people a day. And the very last person that we went to see was Neil Moritz's company, this guy Brad Luff, who ran Neil Moritz's company. It was like Friday afternoon after a long week, and we had this list of ideas, and he had one at the bottom that I just hated and never really let us bring up because I just thought it was really stupid. And we ran through our ideas, and he didn't really like anything, and then we threw out that final one on the list, and he was like, that's really funny, and it was like, all right. And he was like, look, go, I mean, we were very clear with people, like, hey, we're in town, we're from Baltimore, we're blah blah blah, he's like, well, look, go back to Baltimore and write an outline and send it to us, and let's see what happens. It's pretty funny. And we got back, and like we convened on Monday morning, and we're like, do you know how to write an outline? No. Do you? I was like, no. Nobody. We didn't know how to write an outline. So we started the draft on Monday morning. We finished it on Thursday night. We had to finish it before 5 p.m. because that was the FedEx deadline, like back in the pre-PDF days. We wrote the script Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and half of Thursday. Just completely busted it out, just like pacing back and forth, and just long hours, and it was really fun. I can remember so much about that week, and I just pictured Butler making so many jokes, and it was so much fun. And then at the end of that week, Thursday at 5 o'clock, we hit the FedEx deadline and sent it to our manager. in the pre-PDF days, and she got it on Friday morning. She's told us later she read about 30 pages of it, and then she messengered it over to the producer. And he called me at home on Saturday night and was like, this is really funny, like we really want to do this. And I was like,
Saturday night?
Yeah, I was like, oh, that's amazing. You know what I mean? And then I didn't hear anything all week. And it was like, okay, was it fantasy? Was it, did I get a head injury or a mini stroke or something? And then the following Saturday night, they called and they were like, Amy Pascal says, yes, we're done. Like, it was like from the script didn't exist 2 weeks before. And it was sold like pretty much, 15 days after its inception. Like,
Wow.
and
did you just pitch it with a log line?
Yeah. It was like like a minute or 2 minutes of what we knew. And
Okay.
We had a facility to just be funny in the room spontaneously. And so we would just, we would sit on the plane and we're like, should we work up our pitches? We would just go in the rooms and just sort of wing it. And when I think of some of the rooms that we went into and just, winging it, I could smack myself in the throat because we cost ourselves years of time by taking really serious opportunities and just treating them like things that would pop up every day and didn't matter. And
Right.
everybody had a good time and they all laughed and thought that we were a really funny duo. But we could sell stuff, but we couldn't get past that. Like, we couldn't get something toward being made. That script that I just told you about, like the executive at Sony's other movie that he was dealing with at the time was Spider-Man. Like the original Sam Raimi Spider-Man. So it was like,
wow.
we always knew we were getting a little less attention,
Sure.
It was
what
also
was the premise? Was it
Oh, God.
like love story, comedy, action thing? What are we doing?
It was a love story comedy.
Okay.
It was the late 90s, you know what I mean? So it was a premise that would, end careers today.
I was gonna say very problematic.
Yes, hugely problematic. But the thing about it was, it ended like, there's a whole lot of problematic stuff to it, but it ends with so much heart because this person who's had, some bad views up, some wrong views about another person for all this time, finally is just like, look, I don't care who or what or whatever is going on with this person. I am just vastly in love with them and don't care whatever the situation is. And it was like, and it was just a big turning point where it was like, hey, all these jokes and all these things that came before, but it just was really masking this incredible heart where this guy like this guy blows a relationship because he suspects something about the girl that he's with. And then later, like, even as that stuff seems to be confirmed and confirmed and confirmed, he's just like, I don't care, I'm in love. I don't care, I'm in love. Right. And finally he like tells everybody like, hey, so what if this is the case? I'm very much in love. And to us, that was just always it was never about the stuff of getting there. It was about the redemption of saying love is the thing, like as long as he feels genuine love for that person, everything that happened before could be potentially forgiven.
I mean, that's like every Farrelly brother movie.
Yeah, and that was really where we, it was really in that same preposterous kind of vein of like over the top nonstop jokes, like my favorite, the guy worked at the airport. Anyway, it was just so stupid. It's like he worked at the airport and he's kind of a loser and his boss comes to track him down. And like his job is to hook up like the sanitation pipes to the planes at the end to like suck the toilet systems dry and everything. And he's like just to give you an example of like how bad it, like his boss comes up and he's like, hey, McCarthy, I got a shit job for you. And he's like, this is a shit job, It was like, so yeah, like it was nice. It was in that that level of jokey. Yeah. So but then, I mean, we did a few of those and they were doing really well. And then, we just couldn't convert it to the point where, because we didn't really know about rewriting and because we didn't really know how to play the system and because we didn't have the stuff that you have today where you can go learn so much about the system before you ever land in it. We had to just learn as we went. And so we did every stupid, wrong thing that you could do career-wise for 10 years, you know what I mean? Just because, nobody told us any better. And even when we got agents or anything, they were just like, these guys, their whole thing is that they're freewheeling, funny guys. And our agents would get calls and they'd be like, this is the funniest hour I ever had. And they're like, oh, can you hire them? Well, probably not. Like,
right. Oh, no. Yeah, they never showed you how to tighten up at all.
Yeah. It was never like, hey, if you just spend the other 22 hours of the day messing around and doing all the things that you're doing, and spent the 2 hours a day that you're in meetings focused and just paying attention and being like legit gentlemen who are just here to like, do some work, you'll go really far. And it was like, and it was only after Bueller and I stopped working together and I went so that I was like, okay, now that I'm going to be out here on my own, I'm going to treat it like a job instead of like, I think that a lot of people when they first start, who don't come from LA especially, just think, oh, there's this dream factory, you know, where the streets are paved with gold and you can make all your dreams come true and fairy dust and all this stuff. And it's like,
Are you saying it's not that?
what I'm saying is, I started meeting a lot of LA natives in the industry, and LA natives, I noticed, treated it like a job in their one industry town. They didn't treat it like a dream job or a thing, like a life's goal or this or that. It was just a job. And the minute I started treating it like just a job and stopped thinking that I could be Billy Wilder or something, you know what I mean? It was like that things got much more concrete.
That makes sense.
You didn't have your enabler there too. Like, because I feel like if you're there with a buddy that's like, you know, you're sort of codependent in that way, like that's how I would be. I know 100%.
We love the Replacements. My favorite band was the Replacements, and I introduced Butler to the Replacements. And the entire Replacements history is just drunken louts doomed to fail because they're too cool to try or too scared to be caught trying because they might fail if they try.
Yeah.
And like that, you know, those ethos burned into us way too deeply for way too long.
Such good music came out of it.
Oh, I mean, you know, it totally. But now when I look at it, or like if you read the book about their lives, you're like, dear God, like the band broke up, and like, you know, the bass player Tommy, who everybody loves, becomes a telemarketer, and you know, Westerberg moves back into his parents' house. You know what I mean? And it's just like, oh God. So it was like seeing Butler, you know, kind of become a casualty of the business in a lot of ways because of life and money and family and children and all that kind of stuff. It was like, all right, if I intend to stay here, I'll just treat it like a really serious thing from now on.
Interesting.
Do you think that actually you might have like sort of been hurt by that initial success because it sort of reinforced the negative thing, as opposed to like if you had just kept failing in that way and learned?
That first sale set us back, for sure. There were
it only takes a week to write a script and then you're golden, right?
That we really operated for like the next 18 months under the premise of how it works is you go in with a bunch of ideas, you pitch them to people, they like one, you go back, you write it, you send it to them, they sell it.
Why doesn't everyone do this?
Exactly. It was like, well, everybody talks about how hard this is. It was like, oh, okay. So this was just an incredible fluke and nothing will ever happen that way. And it was just because we happened to be able to get, you know, Brad Luft just had the ear of Neil Moritz, and like he was able to just whisper in his ear and go, this is great. We should just jump on this thing now. And he trusted him to do it. And it was like, there was no impediment between us and getting to the studio in a way that now, you know, there's, you know, and forever after, it's like, hey, after these 19 hoops, then we'll think about heading to the studio probably. You know what I mean? And honestly, later the movies that I wrote with Mike Flanagan, like the ones that those 4 movies that we did together that got made, there wasn't interference with those scripts. It was just they were written and he went off and did them. You know, it was only every script that we ever sold or set up. I think we did like 20 scripts together, and like 4 got made and two TV shows. But it was like the other 14 weren't any different. It was just somewhere along the line somebody interfered with them and changed them from the course of what they were meant to be. You know.
How did you guys meet?
I was just gonna ask that.
We both went to Towson University there, but like 6 years apart or something like that, 4 years apart or something. I don't know, like years apart. And we just had a mutual friend who was like, hey, you know, I think you two would like each other, and like put us in a room together. And I had sold my first couple of scripts at that time and met Flanagan, and he was making like VHS movies with his friends that were like really good. Like they shouldn't have been as good as they were, you know what I mean? But they were great. Yeah. And so it was clear. It was like, oh, this is a director. You know what I mean? So we just started talking, and I was like, hey, look, if you ever want to kick some ideas around. And he was like, I don't like the Hollywood system, and I don't have any interest in the studio system, and I just really want to live outside of it, and blah, blah, blah. And we kept in touch. And then like 3 or 4 years later, I got a call and it was like, about that studio system. Like, yeah. And I was really excited to work with him because I liked the way that we sparked on stuff, and I liked what he did. And then I sort of went from selling something routinely to working with Flanagan, and then the industry ignored everything for about 4 years. You know, it took about 4 years to get anywhere once we really locked down to working together. And I, you know, had to go back to being a pastry chef and all kinds of stuff during that time, because
I was just about to ask, how does that even work on your lifestyle wise to be like, all right, well, I'm going to back out of this and go down this path now?
And I had managers and agents who were like, why are you taking this kid to meetings? And why are you introducing this person to people? And what is going, you know, why would you do this? Stop doing this now. And I just got rid of all of them because I was like, look, for better or worse, economically, the material is great. So I'm like really happy with the material. So I'm going to stick with it.
Hitching to this wagon.
Yeah. Ultimately, just believing that the good stuff would win in the end, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, it just felt better.
Seems like it did.
Yeah, and then that changed everything. He had the short for Oculus, and he really wanted to do like a what are they called? That movie with a bunch of movies in it.
Like an anthology?
That's the one. I was stuck on compilation. It's all the
Yes.
Michael Jackson lately. But yeah, like he had the short, and the idea was, well, I want to do an anthology, and this is like 1/3 of the movie, And we'd go around and we'd pitch it to places, and every time the word anthology would come out, people would just sort of glaze over. And then finally one day I was just like, just thinking about how how could you turn this into a singular experience and make it worthwhile to redo something that was already done fairly well, like in like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And it was just like, hey, what if he just has a sister? And it's hinted in the short that he had a childhood experience with the mirror, but it's not fully explored. And it was like, what if he had a sister and they went through this together and they have different opinions about it? And that it just, that very first moment we sort of were talking, and it was like, once I added a sister to the element, like what went back and forth between us was like, well, it opens and closes with the brother saying it was the mirror, it was the mirror. It was like, it gets him as a kid, it gets him as an adult. And then, once we knew that, we felt really confident. And it was just a lucky meeting. It was just, everybody sometimes tends to be down on general meetings, but a meeting's only general if you go without a plan. You know what I mean? If you show up to a general meeting and you have an idea, then you can turn it into something else, and that's what it was. I think I was out of town and he went to see Trevor Macy and he pitched him, and Trevor was like, yeah, like I really like that idea, let me check it out. And it was Trevor's partner.
Had he seen the short?
Not yet. No, the meeting, it was first the meeting, then he saw the short, then he heard exactly like how it would be changed and was like, yes, let's do that. And that was like the first time we were able to get paid together.
And they were good keeping him on as director?
They were tentative about it at first, and then demonstrated that obviously it was never meant to go any other way. And it was the same thing with editing. First, they hired somebody else to cut it, and then he started seeing the cut. It was like,
I have some notes.
Yeah, it wasn't meant to quite be this way. And he cut together a little piece of it to show how it was meant to be. And they were like, okay, let's see if we can work this out with the unions now to just let you cut the thing too. Which I think was what made that movie was really made in the editing, like as you can tell.
Oh my gosh, totally.
Sure.
Like going back and forth, sort of time hopping and passing. And
yeah, all that stuff was scripted too. Like that's all there in that very first draft.
Really?
We did the same thing. Those scripts, like Oculus and we called it Somnia. The studios ended up calling it this Before I Wake, which always sounded to me like a mid-90s Tori Spelling Lifetime movie. And there was another script that, there were a couple more that got bought that never got made. But there were like 4 or 5 of them in a row where over the course of like 7 or 8 months, we would rent the same little rental in Studio City, and we'd go in on Monday and we'd leave on Friday, like with the draft. And we were just always really proud of that. We were able to turn out like really sophisticated drafts very quickly. And, that really helped us at the beginning because we cranked out 4 or 5 of those, and they all sold. So I think only 2 ultimately got made, but they were all sold. So
that's impressive. Oculus, I'd say more so than the rest of his work that I've seen, and I'm guessing anything you've been on, really hits the ground running. Like it's a pretty lean movie. There's no time wasted. It just jumps right into what's happening, and you get to the scares pretty fast. Was that intentional for the first movie?
Yeah, it was designed to be fun and move fast and also hit you hard in the heart. Like that was the whole, and that's where that formula came from. That's I could still last today. It's like get in and make you care, and then once you really really care, start hitting you really hard in the feelings with the bad things that happen. I just still believe that it's like if you don't make them care in the beginning, they're never going to care what happens in the end.
Right. So where'd you pick that up? Because you didn't study writing in college. So how'd you pick up formatting or structure or any of this?
So first off, in those days, you could come and you could go to some bookshops on Hollywood Boulevard that were amazing, and you could buy scripts. So, we would come to town and I would just buy every script that I could get a hold of. But then also, it was really just watching movies, especially when Flanagan and I started working together. It just went into this phase where I went through the AFI top 50, and I went through the top grossing top 50, and I went through like personal 25 or so favorites, and just structured every movie out. Like I actually found the flash drive that they were all on like a couple of months ago, and like beat out all these structures, like, like from 0 to 145 this, and 145 to 315 is this, and like just all these, and that just really was a big lesson in structure. It taught me how little there usually is in your favorites. Most of your favorites are really sparse.
Yeah.
And not overly complicated. And one day I did Schindler's List and Tommy Boy on the same day and discovered that they had the same, like they were the same structure. And it was like, okay, wait a minute. Like certain things are starting to pop up over and over in these movies, you know, like bittersweet endings and, you know, like just over and over, there were characteristics that these best of movie lists would always just have over and over. So that just became sort of the structure to work off of. It's like, grab them with the genre open, take the first act and make them really care about the person. Let the global problem that's going to hit them sort of creep up on us the way that COVID was creeping up in November and December of 2019. You know what I mean? Like in the background. And then, you know, first half of the second act is like, you go out there to fight the global problem, but you get your ass kicked once, twice, thrice, because you're too busy worrying about your personal problem to do great. But midpoint gives you a glimmer of hope. Second half of the second act, and the second half is much shorter than the first half. It's like 60-40. There's no setup, there's no exposition left. It's all downhill and picking up speed along the way. And the second half of the second act is you go after the big global problem once, twice, thrice, and it looks like you're going to win, and then it looks like you're really going to win, and then it looks like the movie's over. And then at the end of the second act, you get a giant rug pull, knocks you right back to the beginning on the global problem. And the third act is one big swoop attempt to go get it all and win, and then you land in a bittersweet place, you know. And it's like, they all did it, you know, like Some Like It Hot and Wall Street had the same structure, you know. And it's like, so, something's going on.
That's amazing.
Yeah, they found a formula that works.
Yeah,
it's amazing for me as a layperson to hear you break it down so easily.
Well, 25 years, you know, selling these things and 31 years of trying, you know. Yeah, it's weird. I found out I have a pension like a couple of years ago, which I never realized. And I went on and looked at it, and it lists all the little sales and the different things. It's like, oh yeah, like oh right, you know. So yeah, very strange. But yeah, that structure is very real.
Yeah, sure. I have like 3 shelves of books that tell the same thing over and over again, essentially.
I could never read those books, and I just think like
there's like 2 that I really like, and the rest are just, you know, people preaching that like to hear their own voice.
Yes, Dan Harmon's Story Circle is really good. Like that's good. That guy really knows his stuff.
Article. I don't know if I've read a book of his.
No book, but he just has this, like, you can just go, it's just a little circle with like little things. Yeah. That's some good stuff. That's the only one I wish I'd have known at the beginning. You know, we were always fed like Joseph Campbell, Aristotle, or whatever, and I was like,
yeah, they're a slog to get through.
I just could not have cared less. It's like, this is what made Lucas so boring. It's like reading this book. So anyway.
Yeah. So what you've had made is all horror, is that right?
Yeah. There's some other stuff coming. But yes. It's been very, very good to me. I like it very much.
Well, let's get to that in a second. But you started off writing comedies. Like, did you just want to write, or were you a genre writer?
I just liked all movies. I just grew up liking everything, and I never was picky. And I loved all the trashy TV from the childhood in the 80s too, you know. I was just a big fan of all kinds of stuff. And it never occurred to me that you would like have to pick one or sort of get railroaded into one. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It was only much later that I realized that.
Yeah. Well, where they say you're good at this is what you do.
Well, I think it's never really so much you're good at this as it's like, here's the first thing that got sold or the first thing that got made. Therefore, this is what you do, you know?
Right.
So like and that's what I always tell writers now. It's like, write whatever you want, but the marketplace will later tell you what your shingle is.
Huh, that's a good point.
I remember that from just pitching. So we were working at an ad agency, but I remember going in and it's one of the Butlerism. He's like, don't pitch anything that you don't believe in, because that's the one they're going to choose. Like, it doesn't matter what it is. Inevitably, if it's an idea that you don't love, that's the one they're going to choose for whatever reason, and you're going to be stuck with it.
Yes. I also think, especially with putting it on the page, that like the entire point is to drain yourself emotionally and put as much heart onto the page as you possibly can. And that's when things really started turning around, was when I realized like, okay, stop being afraid that someday your mother might watch this, and just be as real as humanly possible about it, and like very open about all this stuff. And once you plug into that and can make them feel something on the page, that's the changeover point. Like, they know every plot, and they've seen every twist, and they know every action and romance and thriller moment that could possibly exist, but they hardly ever read anything and like feel anything, you know? Sure. And so it was like, okay, if you couch something within a genre, but you also give them something they could feel, that's what made the first one work. It was like it was all so crazy and Farrelly Brothers, but at the end, it was like there was real love in there, you know what I mean? And so it was like that little feeling could win people over. That's the number one thing I think for people to realize is your best idea is always going to be the one that you care the most about and put the most emotion into. And if you get done these things, I see a lot of people where they get done a script and they're like, oh, I'm immediately going to start my next thing. I'm so energized that I'm rolling along. It's like, no, if you're not so drained and wrung out that you don't believe you ever have another script in you, you're not done. You know, so you got to go back and complete it until the point where you feel like, well, that's it. I've completely retired and it's over.
I have nothing left to give.
Yeah. And then the brain heals up after a while,
So was Oculus the first movie set you got to be on that wasn't, the one you sold to Blockbuster? Real movie set, I guess.
Yeah, no. We'd been lucky. I just had been lucky a couple of times with weird encounters. Spent like 3 nights watching James Cameron direct Schwarzenegger in a Terminator 3D ride thing that they were making. And it was just a fascinating education. And then spent a couple of nights on the set of a movie called Father's Day with Ivan Reitman directed with Robin Williams and Billy Crystal.
Yeah, sure.
Where we were sort of brought around to sort of stand there and be funny. It's just, there were some great experiences before then, but it's just so different when it's your thing, The strangest out-of-body experience I had was going to the Oculus set and watching them do things, and like you'd watch it in person and be like, and then you look on the monitor and go, whoa, that's a movie, know? Or like Karen Gillan was the queen of this, and just so amazing. Like you would have subtext like in your mind, like of what's dancing through their thoughts or eyes or something. And then you'd watch Karen Gillan do it and you're like, I see it. Like, it's like, she's doing it with her face,
That's really cool.
Yeah.
And it changes your writing forever to see something produced at that level, because you trust what a cinematographer can do, and you trust what the prop people can do, and you trust what the actors can do, and you're like, oh my god, I can do so much more stuff because these people like really can do anything.
Yeah,
I really wish that for everybody to see that, because that was, seeing Oculus was sort of a wake up moment of like, oh, okay, there's another level to achieve.
Yeah,
like another level to get to.
I find that part so fascinating. It's really interesting to see how the sausage is made, I guess.
It was the one thing that makes me feel bad about being on sets is you're just like the only person without a job. You know what I mean? Like, hey, Teamster, watch me eat your Pop-Tart. Hey, like, I'm sorry you had to move me out of the way the 13th time.
Right.
Yeah, that you feel like a real loser standing there. But the people are so nice. The first time we were on that Somnia movie that became Before I Wake, Annabeth Gish was there. And it was just like, always a big X-Files fan. I just really liked Annabeth Gish. I like Mystic Pizza. I like this. It's like, she just always seemed so cool. And one day I just heard on the radios, like everybody's little headset was going, it's like, does anyone have Jeff Howard? Where's Jeff Howard? It's like, oh God, like, look, it's over. Like I've been booted, they found
me out.
Right. So it's over. And it was Annabeth Gish. She just wanted to meet and like and say thank you and talk about the script and chit chat and stuff. And it was like,
wow.
Oh, wow.
Oh, that was so cool. And now it's like I see her around from time to time, and it's always like, oh, you're my absolute favorite, because you just made people feel so comfortable. Or like Katie Sackhoff on Oculus was a person where like once Katie Sackhoff walked onto the set, everybody was working for her. It was the same with Carla Gugino. Really? It was like there's certain presences where you're just like, that's our cool friend, and we're all going to do like what they say,
Yeah.
Cool. Carla Gugino is that way too. Just like, hi, I'm a commanding presence, and everyone's going to watch me this entire time I'm on the set because I'm just cool like that. Like, no, I'm not trying.
Put it out there. Yeah.
Yeah. I draw that in.
Oh, wow. That's cool. So you went from, or I guess the world told you that horror is your niche.
Yeah. Flanagan and I, when we first met, worked on all kinds of different ideas, but we worked on one with a really famous director named Tom Shadyac for about 6 months. That was like a Christmas movie. Yeah. And then Shadyac very famously had a bicycle accident and a brain injury and dropped out of the industry. And it was like, Flanagan and I kept having stuff like that. I told you there was like a 4-year dry period. It was like, we wrote an amazing script that was about a special services unit that's overrun by werewolves, and they don't know what they are, but they're kept in a medical facility now. And they're like, once a month, they're sort of dropped into a place to do something terrible. And then they spend the rest of their time and they bust out to try to figure out what's going on with them. And, they have to be caught before the full moon and all that stuff. And, Lawrence Bender got it, and we developed it with his people for a long time. And it was like the day before it was going to go to the studio, they're like, Lawrence wants you to come in and talk. And we went in and we sat down to talk, and it was like he started running through his third act problems. And then they became like second half problems. And we spent a couple of hours sitting in there where again, over and over and over, tried to find solutions, and finally got the tap on the back from our manager at the time. It was just like, there's no solution to have. He just doesn't want to. He just wants to kill it. Like that, you know. And it was like that. It was like, and the same thing with Shadyac. Like,
oh God,
we had this script idea about a soldier. He's got a 48-hour pass, and it's Christmas, and he's trying to go from like the deserts of the Middle East to Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, to see his wife and kid for like 5 minutes if he can make it, you know, and like
Yeah.
and get back. And we developed it with Shadyac and all that stuff. You know, it was really going well, and it was really emotional. It was really fun. And then, like I said, at the moment that it was about to be done, that little incident, you know, his incident happens, and it's just like they have us in one day, and they're like, "Yeah, I just really can't commit to anything about soldiers or anything about this or that." And we're just gonna go out. It's like, oh, it was like all this time. So there were like 4 of those where it was like, wow, this is the thing that's going to be so bigger than big, and then it would ultimately just get squashed.
Yeah.
does that make you jaded a little bit to it, or do you just love like you've never been hurt before and just keep pushing forward?
I just always thought just being in those rooms meant that it wasn't bad. You know what I
Right,
mean?
sure.
Like that you were on the right track. And so because of my early experience just getting into rooms I really didn't have any reason to be in, I think I've sort of taken it for granted all through my career that like meeting people and finding the big people and all that stuff is not the
Hard.
issue.
Right.
Yeah, it's there, you know, like they're there and they're looking. I think people just treat it, again, it's that thing. It's like, if you treat it like a dream factory, you know, if you treat it like unattainable Diana Ross, it will become unattainable Diana Ross. You know what I mean? But if you treat it like, you know, the girl you went to high school with and lives next door, it's, you know, the door's open. Like so many things, I think in life, a lot of it is an individual experience, and a lot of it depends on what you bring to the table. And I've seen some supremely talented people who just didn't have the drive to go out there and sell themselves, and
Yeah.
they fall by the wayside. And I've seen some great salespeople who couldn't put shit on a page, and they fall by the wayside. And I think it's like, what nobody really understands is it takes talent, perseverance, networking, and luck to break into the industry. And everybody focuses on talent, and they develop their talent as far as they can, and they forget about networking, and they forget about, you know, perseverance to me is just your day job. You know, it's like whatever you have to
Right.
make you survive. But the networking is critical. And we're in now this such a social media age that it's like networking is in many ways easier than it ever was. But the mere fact that everybody is so accessible now makes it harder too. You know, it's like there's so much competition to get to the people.
Yeah, you're lost in the algorithms.
100%. And so it's like but you have to do it. Like you have to put yourself out there. You could be, you know, Spinoza and write 2 classics, but you don't publish them till you're dead because you just don't want to. You know, you just can't push yourself into trying, you know. So that's really the biggest thing. And the people of my generation, I think we're all, you know, it's like that was the thing, you know, you never wanted to get caught trying and failing, you know. So a lot of us were just too cool to try. And most of the friends, you know, like I knew like 12 or 15 people who came out here at different times. And I think there's 2 left, you know, out of that entire group, just between attrition and death.
That's the way it works.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird. And you can't pick the survivors, you know. I don't know if you're going to use any of it, but we had talked about Chris Butler at the beginning so much. And like what Butler would always tell me when I would see him after we stopped working together and once things started getting made and stuff, he'd be like, well, at some point along the line, we exchanged lives. You were supposed to drop out and become a square guy in the suburbs with family and kids, and I was supposed to go on and do, you know, like all the, you know, and it was like, and so it's like, you know, you sucked the life out of me and switched realities, and it's like, I don't deny that. You know? Well, you build little pieces of you know, I mean, I had my personality, but you spend so much time with somebody, you build little pieces of people, and I think we all become like a greatest hits of so many of our influences later, and it's like, if you threw Charles Schultz and Billy Wilder and Chris Butler and Carl Reiner and Michael, you know, and Paul Westerberg into a blender, you know, like like that's what would come out. You know, this flannel plaid wearing doofus who has a big heart, tries, fails. Yeah. And you just can't be afraid to fail. Most of the people I talk to out here are just so afraid to fail, and you just can't be. You can't play it safe in any way, shape, or form. If you feel like you've exceeded your talent on an idea and you're in over your head, you're probably in good shape, you know?
Yeah.
There's only one thing, and it was very recent, where I was like, I will now sit down and manufacture the thing. You know what I mean? Like everything else was just like it popped into your head. But that was for a specific purpose. That was like, I really covet network television. And I was like, I will sit and I'm just going to now do the idea that will be a network show.
Very cool.
That's cool. Is that happening?
So far so good.
Right.
We're about halfway home. So yes, that feels good.
So how did you get into the producing role, or was that just sort of a fit because you had done and been on sets and you were like, I need a job?
I think it's mostly just a function of TV.
Refilling the Pop-Tart tray.
Like once you go into TV, everybody's credit is producer of some sort, so they just attribute it to you. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
but it's like just a writer. I mean, you do that stuff, and I mean, I've been there for almost everything. To me, the producer is that guy who's there from the very beginning and goes out and gets the money and blah 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 blah, like all those things.
Right.
So I just
kind of what I was picturing.
Yeah, so I try not to. I try to distance myself from that because I've not done that part of it yet. I'm interested and I think about it a lot, but I had a friend who directed a really terrible movie. Like he had a good writing career going.
It's a good friend, terrible movie.
And I mean, he knows, the world told him. And it was like he had a really good writing career going, and he directed one just absolutely terrible movie and hasn't really done anything since, you know?
Is that on him or the industry?
Yeah. So look, his problem on set was he had 4 very powerful production entities whispering different things in his ear at any given time. And like what I like to see from somebody, when you see, like I did a lot of stuff with Alex Aja lately, and some stuff with another really like living legend, and the stuff with Flanagan, and it's like what you see is those directors unafraid to stand up for their vision and their point of view, and they're not jerks about it. They're they're regular people about it, but they defend what they think they need it to look like and live like. And it's like, people can shit on the auteur system all they want, and I understand that. But the truth is for movies, the director is the person who is involved in every single piece of it, and has to live through it and bring it to life and make it happen. So you really have to, as a writer, give the director exactly what they want and need to go off into battle for a long time. It's like, I always tell every new director to work with, it's like, I'm going to be here for 3 months. You're going to go do this for a year and a half. You know what I mean? You need to be happy. That's the thing with the best directors, very tactfully are able to sell people on their vision of this is what I need to really make it come to life. And no matter what people think when it comes to movies, it is not the star and it is not the script and it is not the producer. It's they're giving the money to the director, not the pay. I mean, the budget, they're committing a budget because of a director. They're like, okay, that's a person who I know will deliver me something I can release, which is why those careers are so hard to break. You have to be able to demonstrate to them, when you give me $75 million, you won't have to flee the country afterwards. You won't regret it. So,
well, that's we were just talking to Eduardo Sanchez. He was saying the same thing. He's like, you got to check the boxes and do the thing. It's like somebody's putting their name on that. Somebody's going to be responsible for that. So they need to know when they give you the check, you're going to make the day, you're going to hit the shots, you're going to do the thing, and there's a lot of confidence that goes in that. And
they love a great movie, but they also love a good one that's finished and works. You know what I mean? And that's really what the secret to a lot of people is. I think a lot of incoming directors want to fight the system in some way, or beat it, or this or that. It's like, don't. If I was advising how to fix the police, I would say everybody who feels oppressed by the police should just sign up everywhere over and over and over again until you own it. You know what I mean? And it's like, I feel the same way with these directors. It's like, what you got to do is you got to work yourself into the system and then convert it, bend it from the inside. Don't break it from the outside. They're too well protected. They have a big sandbox and they know how to make money for people, usually, sometimes.
Which is surprising because, these auteurs have a clear thumbprint on their movies. Like them or not, you can pick out a David Fincher movie from everything else. The people who are known for these type of things, you can pick out a Spielberg film.
Sure.
Hopefully they don't have atrocious behaviors and get wrapped up in that. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
That gets hard when somebody has such a vision and is controlling so much. I see that. But also, putting the trust in that person, like you're talking about, giving the director everything they need. It's so surprising for the studios to come in and say, well, here's 6 more people who have different ideas that, want their names in writer credits and director credits and producer credits also, that are going to change everything and pull you in different directions and wash it all out until it's completely bland.
Yeah. But that'll happen a lot more if you don't assimilate into the world and flow with it and keep trying to fight against it. They'll eventually take it away from you and fix it. If you continue to swim with the system and show them that you're there, you'll win so many more of those fights. It's like, I hate seeing people jump up and immediately stand on principle. And it's like, wait, just wait, don't preemptively go in there and start rattling those cages. It just doesn't work that way.
Pick the hill you want to die on too. Like, because, there's a chance you're going to die on that hill.
Yep. You're also saying treat it like a real job, not an aspiration or something.
You have to. Everything changed for me at that moment, and maybe it's that's my own bias of having had that be my experience. But when I see the LA natives, they're just so much happier than the people who scrimped and saved to come from Duluth and got here and found out it wasn't as magical as they thought or whatever. It's like, just don't treat it that way. It's like, just treat it like, here's a bunch of people with money to make the things that I want to do. How do I weave myself into that system so they look at me as somebody who can help do that,
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you've been successful at that. I mean, to some degree. I mean, I'm guessing it's partly learned. It's partly in your personality. You come across as like a pretty grounded and social person.
Yes, that's the Hollywood disguise to hide the misanthropic reality. You know what I mean? For real. I mean, what's kept me going for 25 years is I got some really good advice early on. And they were like, whatever room you go into, when you leave, have them go, wow, that guy was pretty cool and pretty smart.
Nice.
Because then they remember you and they think of you for things and they do this or that. It's like, it never.
Not like he was moody and artsy. He seemed very artistic and moody.
Yes, but
it's going to be real difficult to work with, but he might make something great.
Exactly. If you go in and stare at the floor and talk bad things about the stuff that, like blah, 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 like all that stuff, it's just, it's never going to work as well. It's like the most subversive thing that you can really do is get inside the system and then be yourself. Like the least subversive thing to do is to alienate it by just going, you'll never get me. You'll never get me. Yeah. We're not too cool for, you shouldn't be too cool for anything. And we're all only here because we grew up loving TV and movies. You know what I mean? It's like, so why would you want to do anything other than contribute to that and like blow a kiss to this thing that brought you here,
That's a great point.
I have a question. So the shift from movies to TV, because the first thing that I was introduced to was The Haunting of Hill House.
Mm-hmm.
So how did that come about? Or what was that? Did you see the script was like, hey, this is going to be a movie, and then it wasn't a movie? Or you were like, no, we jumped in right to the TV? Or how did that come about?
That was Midnight Mass, actually. Midnight Mass started as a movie, got to be about 180 pages, and then it was like, okay, it's not a movie, but nobody wanted to make it. We took Midnight Mass out and pitched it. We pitched Midnight Mass years before, like 2014 maybe, or 15, like somewhere in that zone. And everybody in the world passed. And like, for some reason, like you could completely date it because Eugene Levy and his family were out pitching Schitt's Creek at the exact same time. And like 4 or 5 of the places that we went to pitch Midnight Mass, we would see them in the lobby, like on the same tour.
Oh my God.
Oh, it was very weird. And then it was like, and then when their show showed up, it's like, oh, gee whiz. Hill House just popped up. It's like, Flanagan went from the agent that we had shared over to WME specifically to get larger opportunities. And Netflix had that book and he was like, I would love to take a stab at it, and did. And then hired me on as part of the staff. I got to write like too. It was that, that was a really good one. That was like the lineup of killers. I've not seen another one like quite like that. I'm having the most fun I've ever had on the one that I'm on now. And I consider it kind of the best. I think it'll be ultimately proven to be the best, but like,
can you say what it is?
It's called Witches. It's a Scott Snyder comic book adaptation for Amazon and Plan B. We start season 2 in like 3 weeks or something. So
is that the one with the witches that live in the tree?
Yes.
Oh my God. I read those years ago.
Oh, cool. Yes.
They were awesome.
Scott is like, I've been really lucky, like collaborator wise in the last few years. And like, Scott is just my absolute favorite person sometimes we just get on the phone late at night and just talk story for a while,
Cool.
And it's like, and he's in New York. So sometimes I look down and I'm like, I think it's 1:30 in the morning for you, dude. Like, what are you doing? But it's like, we both do it the exact same way. We just spew out really long runs at a time, just pick a point and just run with it for a while. And he's amazing at that. I'm having the best time.
Well, I can't wait for that because those were legit scary.
Oh, and my first season 2, you know what I mean? It's like, hey, a season 2, like they are real. It's not this, it's not this mythological
that
creature.
Can happen.
Yes. There wasn't a show I'd been a part of before that couldn't have had a season 2. I thought a Haunting of Hill House season 2 with the Cranes would have been just fine. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was an advocate of that. And I feel like there were certain punches pulled in the finale and the last couple of episodes, specifically to let some people live for a mythical season 2, you know? So yeah, so that, like, you know, some of those things I felt like they should have been there, but I'm really just excited where I am now. There's like it's like 5 writers on Witches, and it's a really nice, like, tight little crew. So
cool.
Where are they shooting it?
It's animated, actually.
Oh,
This adult animated horror thing is like the next big wave of stuff that's coming. There's like a whole ton of it coming, and
okay,
it's amazing. It's like, it doesn't matter where you are, it doesn't matter, you know, it's like, and after like 10 years of everything being kept to a pretty strict budget, you can really do what you want. You know what I
you don't
mean?
have
Like,
to keep budget in mind at all.
I mean, the budgeting notion of animation is you got to pay for your spectacular sections by having some chit-chatty sections, you know, or like some less visually complicated sections. Like, you need to balance it out. So there's always a budget sense, but it's just the best. Like, it's such a cool group, and I just, you know, it's something I can feel being like a going enterprise for a long time.
That's gotta be a good feeling too.
Super appealing. It's like, the dream of writing for television isn't to go do a series of season 1 8-episode seasons. You know what I mean?
Right.
The dream of writing for TV is like,
get a hit.
Give me 22 to 1 hours on Fox at Friday at 9, you know?
Yeah.
A new X-Files, you're saying?
Yes.
So Midnight Mass, is that's going to now to expand that to, so you saw it running long, right? So it's big.
Yeah.
And then did you expand it from there to say, all right, well, now we got to make this thing work?
It was already big enough, like, to do what it was going to do. You know what I mean? Like, there was already enough stuff. That was the problem. It was too bloated to be a movie. And that one was just so personal to Flanagan. Like, he really,
you can tell.
Yeah. Like, you know, that one was just he needed to do that thing. And you know, it was nice to see him be able to do it.
That's cool.
It was largely like a trade-off. It was like, do you want this show called Blind Manor? Well, why don't we make this show called Midnight Mass? You know?
Okay.
Right. Yeah. It was the classic meet in the middle of the bridge hostage exchange situation, you know?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's cool.
I thought it was a smart move. I mean, because it's not, you know, I mean, you've seen the show. It's not the kind of material like that people are leaping to do, you know?
Yeah.
So, the back half of it maybe, but the long setup, it's you know, deep dive into like theology.
Yeah,
yes.
Sure.
And the personal relationship with each other as you work through those issues too, is what most of what it meant to me. I grew up in one of those tight-knit little rural communities for a while.
Oh yeah.
And my parents moved us to like a cabin in the woods in Garrett County, Maryland. I realize you guys are there and know what that is. Sure. It's like, and there were like 2 families on this mountain. you know,
like Deep Creek, like, out that way.
Yes, yeah, but like in the mountains, like right behind it.
Okay. Yeah.
And
is that when you started doomsday prepping, like as a
once? I mean, you laugh, but like one winter, right? It started snowing, and it would be like, you know, no school in Garrett County today, no school in Garrett County today. And then one day you woke up and it was like, no school in Garrett County till April 10th. And it was like, whoa, it was like 5 weeks. And my father canned a bunch of food, you know, like he made like baked beans and like all this crazy stuff, like teaching himself how to can. And we eventually ate it all. Like, I mean, it was, you know, like, we were stranded for
getting
weeks.
Lean. The company's getting lean.
It was like the thing, you know. It was like everybody. It was like
Jeff. Today we're going to learn how to hunt.
Right. For the most dangerous game. It's time to get the smoots, the family a mile away.
Yes.
So it's like, you know. So once that battle came down, it was everything was fine. But yeah, I mean. That was creepy. I was in the 3rd grade.
That's got to be a little influential.
I mean, I just remember it well, and I remember that feeling of like, wow, it was really like not much here, and it was like, and then it was just like literally like, okay, well, all these things that this lunatic canned will now keep us like alive. So.
Did you have anything to do with the Alex Ajab movie coming out?
Oh, the Halle Berry one? No.
Yeah.
No.
Oh, okay, I was gonna say I just saw a trailer for that, and it looks great. And as you're describing your childhood, I'm like, huh. This sounds very similar.
Alex is awesome. Alex is so underrated. For a guy that's made that many movies to be underrated is insane. Like we've done 2 things together in the last couple of years. And it looks like the first one is going to start. It looks like he'll be able to go make it like at the end of this year at long last, which is great. It's been about a 5-year process, but it's a choose your own adventure. Like these guys created this tech called Control Tech. And it's an app on your phone, and you sit in a movie theater, and like you have choices on the screen, A or B, and you click it on your phone, and it automatically tabulates the entire audience and cuts like seamlessly to the next thing.
I feel like we've read about that technology for years and haven't seen it.
It's been the crazy, like these guys made this tech. They made a demo to show that it was. They got like millions of plays on one of those PlayStation or something systems when they put it on, like people going through and doing it. And then I saw a demo of it and got to know them, and we hatched an idea. And then they had Alex, and they brought Alex in, and we all got along. And there was a Flanagan and me script called Snapshot, 1988, that Alex really wanted to make. And so that, like, I got to know him through that. But then we devolved into this thing, and then into another thing. And we've written like a 400-page script, I think it is at this point, like with all the options and the choices and everything.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And he's gonna go shoot this thing, and it's like, he's the only person I've ever met who could, like, he has the whole thing in his head. Like he knows all the options and all the winding little roads and stuff. And I'm just like, yeah, I do not have this in my head, Alex, like you.
Yeah, he
Right?
sounds like a real badass, because he's got his like indie stuff that's like real dark, but then like his commercial stuff is an absolute blast.
Yes.
Piranha and Crawl. Oh my God.
I loved
that.
Crawl.
It's so fun.
He showed me Crawl back when we first started working together. He's like, come to the screening room and watch Crawl. And I went in to see it, and I was like, all right, okay, this is an alligator movie. Like, in 100 minutes, I got to think of something nice to say about this alligator movie. You know what I mean?
And go.
And then he plays it, and at the end, I'm like, this is the Rear Window of alligator movies. Like, this is the great, like, it was just such an achievement. You know, that entire movie is shot indoors on a soundstage.
Yeah, like half of it's in a basement.
Right, but I mean, even when they're outside, like the gas station and all that stuff, it's a stage. Like, it's there's no genuine exteriors in the entire movie. You know, because of the rain and the flooding and everything, they needed to control it all. So
sure,
yeah,
makes sense.
That dude amazes me every single time, and just the best guy to, like, you know, to just like hang and chat with and do your stuff. You know, like he's just like a real person. You know what I mean?
Oh, nice, even better.
Yes, yeah, just like you know, we talk about our kids and our life. You know, it's like, it's just, you know, just a regular guy. My wife is such a fan. The first time he came over, like, she's a really big horror fan, and like he walked in and he got like 2 steps into the door, and she's like, I loved High Tension. You know, it's like, give him a second. Like, so.
Couldn't contain it.
It would be weird if your wife was not a horror fan. Although I can totally see that happening though too, where it's like, you know, just separation of church and state, where you're like, nope.
Yeah. I wouldn't have had a prayer with my wife if she wasn't a horror fan. Okay. She was way too good looking and cool. And I was just like, we're on our first date, and like when you're in LA, I think that, and you're a woman and somebody tells you that you're a writer, I think part of your mission is like to figure out like, what would they really do? You know, like, what's your real date? You know?
I was gonna say, where's the exit?
Yeah, and she's like, oh, you know, have you written anything that I know? And I was like, I wrote this movie Oculus. She's like, I love Oculus. No, I was like, it's over. It's like, still the best thing that movie ever did for me. You know,
that's
like,
great.
Yes,
nice.
It was like,
that's so good.
And it was a one and only lifetime moment, but it was like, oh, deal done. You know, it's like,
his writing finally paid off.
And then she told me later, she was like, well, then for a while I thought maybe you were making it up. I was like, if I was making it up,
she's like, I need to go back and see the credits. I don't need to
I just would have made up something way bigger and more impressive.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure. Made Titanic. I don't know if you've heard of
it. Right. You know that King of the World thing? That was me. I threw that in.
Well, hey, I have a million more questions for you, but we're getting close to a meeting where you're really big timing us. So.
That's okay.
I mean, I have right up until the border of that time if you need me. Like you do you.
It's okay.
I just got to click on a Zoom link. It's old hat by now. I wish it was more. It's a
very impressive name that was thrown out for any listeners.
Very
impressive.
Someday I'll tell you in a bar.
Yes. So we always wrap up with a little bit of a travel aspect. Where you call home, now that you've been in LA for a while, I mean, where would you still call home? And I'm not going to let you pick the mountains where you had to can stuff, because then we won't be able to learn anything.
Right, that won't help us in our journey.
What do I consider home?
So the question is, we show up for a day in wherever it is you call home.
Yes.
You know, a tourist. What are you doing?
Yeah. Well, I'm in like Studio City. It's like right over the hill from like the Hollywood area and all that stuff, like Laurel Canyon over. And look, I mean, the first thing we'll do is go to our favorite waffle place that is outstanding, and they make their own salsa.
What's it called?
It's called More Than Waffles in Encino.
Wait, did you say make their own salsa?
They make their own salsa for the omelets. They make their own jam, like for everything. It's just like
salsa for the omelets.
Oh,
omelets. I'm sorry. I was hearing waffles in my head for some reason.
Oh, it is waffles.
It is waffles. It's more than waffles.
Yes.
It's salsa and omelets.
The omelets and salsa are the more part in the more than waffles. But it's like that's the place. That's the best place to be. You can always tell because there's always like a 2-hour wait, and they finally instituted like an online waiting, so you don't have to go there.
I'm in for anything eggs.
Yes. And then it may be the most touristy sounding thing you've ever heard, but whenever people are in town and they really want to see like a little Hollywood experience, I just always take them on the Warner Brothers tour, which is about 8 minutes that way.
Okay.
It sounds cheesy, but it's literally like they do a really good job. Like they take you through all aspects of production, and you get to go see the places. Like here's the prop house, and here's the stage settings, and here's
that's awesome. Where else are you gonna get that?
The houses and everything. And one time I took my parents, and like we went past a trailer, and the door opened, and like Alan Alda stuck his head out and like was like looking around, and I was like, "Mom, look!" She's like, I mean, my parents are like, MASH was everything to them at a certain point.
Perfect person to, for your parents
That's
to see.
Hawkeye.
Exactly.
Hawkeye. Hawkeye stuck his head out.
I think he must have been on West Wing or something at that time.
Yeah.
But whatever that it was like, and that was just like, they were just on it. It was like, that was the greatest thing. And like, I had a similar thing with my dad one time. My dad's real stoic about stuff and like, tries not to look impressed by anything. But we were driving in Santa Monica, and we drove past Harrison Ford, like walking down the street. And as we went past him, I was like, "Dad, look!" And he looked. He goes, "Go back around." I was like, "Whoa!" Like that was like that just felt like a big deal. My dad started my whole movie thing. He was like a big movie fan, and he owned like he would record everything off of Turner Classics and AMC and like everything. And so I got to be raised on all those movies. And he took me to see Raiders of the Lost Ark on 6 consecutive Saturdays. When it first came out. I think it was like I was like 10, I guess. It was something like that, and it was like. Yeah, the first time I saw the commercials, I was like, I don't want to see a space movie. I don't want to see a space movie because that's what I thought it was. And I walked out of there and I was like, I know the moment so vividly, and that was when my whole life changed. And it was like by the time I'd seen that movie a few times, I was like, okay, I want to write movies, and like I get a sense of what they're like because now I've seen this one so many times that like it's only like 10 big pieces. Like the first few times it was like,
is that when you started breaking it down, like just in a very natural way? You know what I mean? There are kids that can like hum music and know where it's kind of going and start to hear the sort of intervals and things like that. I really wonder if that was like influential to you to be like,
if you ever wonder why you should work your ass off for this job and like whether it's worth it or not, that was like the beginning for me, was seeing Raiders, and it was like a life-altering experience. And then after that movie with Alex that I'm telling you about, the choose your own adventure thing, we went in to pitch Spielberg, and one of the producers wrote him a physical letter, and like he got the letter and was like, and they pitched him the tech and pitched the story, and he bought it in the room, and that was that. And it was the most crazy, you know what I mean? Like that crazy stuff
actually
can happen. So yeah,
is that something
that's why it's worth it.
Will be made?
It's looking like they'll get there at the end of the year. They moved. It's no longer at Amblin. It's moved over to Paramount now. So what can you do? But yeah, it was like he bought part of the company that makes the stuff and the thing like on the same day. It was like, we're just gonna do this now. So yeah, it was really cool. And so
can you give us the title, or is this under wraps?
I think it's still under wraps. Right. Sorry, cool. I hate to do that, but it's like, but Alex is just gonna kill it. So anyway, it's like, but like full circle, it's like you can really start at a place, and then the great thing about Hollywood is like if you persevere and you're really crazy lucky, you do ultimately end up in these circumstances, where it's like, I've had a meeting with Schwarzenegger in full Terminator costume. I got yelled at by Brian Grazer for 20 minutes one time. Robin Williams laughed at jokes. Like, there's all the, I got to ask Henry Thomas what it's like to be a corporate logo for your entire life. You know what I mean? It was really cool. I was in a room, I think of all those things, and I'll let you go, but like the most impressive thing that I ever felt, Karen Gillan, who you know from earlier me mentioning, I just absolutely love. I think she's one of the best performers that there are just out there right now. I think she's just absolutely maybe the best, and because she can do almost anything. And I was at a screening one time, And I was just sort of like standing like 10 feet away, and I looked over and I just sort of saw her, and I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. And then I heard some people walk up to her, and somebody said blah blah blah, and they go, oh yeah, Jeff Howard's here. And she goes, Jeff Howard's here? And I was like, oh, it was like, oh my God.
She
Like
knows who I am.
she was happy. Like that was like, my God, that was cool. So anyway, that was a moment where it's like,
great.
this is a weird business. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if you just want the weirdest of all things, like the very first week that we got cable, I watched The Thing 4 times, and I just sold my second TV series with a young up and comer John Carpenter. So
really,
and got to work with him, and we wrote a pilot together, and he's committed to direct this pilot, and that was the single most nerve-wracking day of my life, was driving over to John and Sandy's house the first time, and driving in the car and thinking to myself, like, no matter what, you cannot suck today. Like you have to go in there and like
well, it's the social pressure too of like, okay, I just need to leave there with him saying that guy was a cool guy. He's fun to work with.
And the formula for doing that with a person like John is I took as little bit of their time as humanly possible, said yes to everything, and then went out and did everything that needed to be done. You know, it's like, yeah. So John and Sandy are a really great team, and he's really like a great writer. Like, I don't want to shock you, but that dude really knows his stuff. The first time we wrapped up a little thing, I was just like, John, you got a big future, man. Like, you know,
this might work out for you.
There's a lot of upside here, JC. And then he said something gruff and went back to playing video games. You know, so, but yeah,
he's like, I'm sorry, you are again.
Yeah, he's like, I don't need you.
They have that "don't meet your heroes" thing, but it's like, I just don't believe in it. Like, everybody, you very rarely bump into anybody who isn't exactly what you were hoping for.
That's cool.
I mean, I'm sure a lot of people have a different experience that are, I don't know, annoying, less professional, it's less charismatic.
Probably it's more about people, though. Like, I think it's probably more about how you are with people, you know, Aaron. Just kidding.
This is a contractual obligation.
Whenever I talk to writers, I always tell them that these things that get to know executives and producers and stuff, it's exactly like any other relationship. And in the first few months of any relationship, you're like the best version of yourself. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
It's like, you know, it's like, don't treat it like anything else. You know?
Yeah. Wait to put your sweatpants on in front of them.
Right.
Yeah. You know.
Cool. All right. I'll let you take a breath and prep for your very big and very secret meeting coming up.
No prep necessary. But yes, but thank you. Yeah, it's fun. We've been working on something, and it's getting close to time to go try to sell it. So like, here we go. So we'll find out. Like, this is like sometimes you wake up and you do a drastic redo of something. Yeah. And about 2 weeks ago, I woke up and it was like, oh, I'm going to throw away everything that we've talked about for like a year and send a new version and see what happens. And it's like, and it's been very well received. So that's good. It's like, sometimes just trash the whole thing.
Very cool. If you're back this way sometime, you know, let me know.
I'm always around.
Whatever. Love to get a beer.
Wonderful. All right, guys. Well, great.
Thank you so much, Jeff. You've got some incredible stuff in the works. Really, and I can't wait to hear about it.
All right. See y'all next time. Have a great one.
See ya.
Take care.
Bye.